Okay, Chairman. Chairman, now live.
Okay, thank you very much, Lynn. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Colne District's meeting this 5th of November 2020, remotely and being streamed online for anyone that can't attend. My name is Graham Moore. I'm the Councillor for Fulridge and the Chairman of this committee. For anybody that drops out of the meeting and is having difficulty rejoining, you can contact Jane Watson on her mobile number, which is 078 08 200 992. I'll quickly repeat that, 078 08 200 992. So she's acting as sort of backup administrator for this meeting. Thank you. So I'll start off first. Has anybody got any apologies?
I don't have any apologies, Chairman.
No. If anybody has, would you like to raise your hand on the machine and I'll call you? No? That's fine. Any declarations of interest? That's good. I don't have any questions from members of the public. So the minutes of the last meeting we had, could I have someone propose and second?
I'll propose them, Chair.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Chair,
Yeah.
I give my apologies for the last meeting on the 8th of October, and they're not recorded.
Okay, we'll amend them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Graves, you wish to speak?
No, I've just arrived.
Oh, I'm looking for a seconder for the minutes.
I'll second them.
Okay, Sarah, thank you. So I will then ask for, if you're all in favour, if I see nobody indicate with putting their little hand up or contacting Lynn's attention, I'll wait a few minutes. So all in favour, I've assumed, unless I hear to the contrary. So that's the minutes of the last meeting passed unanimously. Next item of business is progress report. Anybody wish to speak, comment? I've nobody indicating.
Graham?
So, yeah, who's that?
Chair,
Jonathan?
sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
Item number 1, which is to do with the traffic liaison. I think it might have been Councillor Coburn-Price who raised this, to do with the North Valley Road and the traffic lights at Langroyd, the junction with Langroyd Road. Is there any update on that? Is it part of the ongoing improvement works along the entire stretch of the North Valley Road? Do we know yet? Sarah's got her hand up now.
Yeah, the answer to that is I don't know.
It is,
Sarah.
Yeah. Sorry, it isn't part of it. And Lynn drafted a masterly question. I changed it, and she pointed out where I was wrong. So we changed it back again to go to the traffic liaison group. So I think we're waiting on what they're going to say in terms of the fact that people are jumping these lights, getting away with it, and it's dangerous behaviour.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay, so we still have got no response then. Is that all, Jonathan, or do you have anything else?
That's it, thanks, Chair.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, moving on then. Police issues. They were invited. They haven't arrived. Is that correct, Lynn?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so we don't have any police in attendance. If anyone has any burning issues they wish the committee to pass on. Sarah Coburn-Price.
David and I attended the Home Community Safety Partnership yesterday, There was lots that was good news. Crime generally is down, except for the fact that poor Pendle appears to have become the antisocial behaviour capital of Lancashire. And there have been huge increases, like 77 new. Wait a second, let me look at my paperwork. So, for example, in September, antisocial behaviour was up 69 and on the previous year, and in October it was up 77. It's quite unprecedented, seemingly.
Okay, that is bad news for everybody. Anybody else? Nobody else wishing to speak? Put your hand up now, please, if you do. Okay, then next off, we're on to the planning applications. Now, just some clarification for you. The last two planning applications, which is 867 and 868, they came to me anyway on purple paper. If any of the councillors have them on purple, that is an oversight. They are not excluded from public scrutiny, so they will be treated in the normal way. So that is just for your information. And those two items, if you did pick up in the report, they're for our recommendations. They're not for us to make a decision at all. So first up, then, we've got item 0551, which is the erection of an extension on Keithley Road, Colne. Any councillor wishing to speak or put a proposal forward?
Chairman.
Yeah.
We do have a speaker on this item.
Right, thank you. So that Vincent Ryan.
Yeah, that's correct.
Are you with us, Mr. Ryan?
Yes, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Please, you have the floor. If you can keep it to 3 minutes, I'd appreciate it. But if you have a lot to say, I will listen.
Okay, no, I'll keep it to 3 minutes. Thank you.
That would be great.
Thank you, Chair, members. Good evening. My name is Vincent Ryan, and I'm speaking on behalf of the applicant, Mr. Towler. As members are fully aware, the planning system actively encourages and supports people who wish to alter and extend their homes. Permitted development rights for homeowners, for example, are extensive. It is also a sustainable way of recycling urban land, reducing the market demand for new homes to be built on the green fields around our towns, which many people, of course, wish to protect. There are, of course, appropriate safeguards that need to be put in place, and that is why there are planning policies that protect, for example, the visual impacts of development, the amenities of neighbours, and sensitive environments such as conservation areas. Your planning officers, the experts tasked with applying those policies, are clearly satisfied that this proposal is acceptable. As members will have observed, this is a resubmission of a previously refused application. Mr. Towler has taken on board the previous reasons for refusal and has revised the application accordingly. And then again, through the current application, Mr. Towler has made further changes at the request of your officers in order to ensure that the development is judged to be in accordance with policy. Just briefly, in response to some of the objections raised, I would like to just say the following. With regard to residential amenity, as your officers report, the windows in the neighbouring property that are most affected by the proposed development, those on the ground floor, are secondary windows, and they're not, therefore, the main source of light and outlook to those properties, to those rooms. And there will be no loss of privacy as a result of the proposed development. With regard to scale and massing, as with any extension, the resultant property will be larger, but not to the extent that this is excessive or detracts from any important architectural style or character in the conservation area because of its modern design. With regard to design and materials, everyone is entitled to a view whether they like or dislike a design. But it is an established facet of the planning system that development should not be refused on design grounds because of personal tastes. Decisions in relation to design must be informed by properly reasoned judgment. For example, I note there are some objections to the use of white render and UPVC windows in this location. However, if one observes the local building vernacular in any level of detail, you will find that light-coloured render and UPVC is a combination found throughout this conservation area, including immediately across the road on the gable of Bent Cottages and on the larger, more prominent property next door but one. The impact of the proposals on the conservation area is, of course, a highly important consideration, and I would ask members to follow the advice of their professional conservation officer in this respect, who agrees that the amendments now made result in an acceptable form of development. Thank you for your attention, and I respectfully request that members accept your officer's recommendation and approve the application. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ryan. If any councillors have any specific questions for you, I will come back to you, but if not, that should be you terminated with us. Thank you. Councillors, anybody? Councillor Coburn-Price?
I think this just shows that the Pendle council officers are on top of their game, because the iterations that this bungalow has been through have been quite a few. If you look at the planning portal, we've had garages that are too small, we've had render down to the ground, and the final designs that only came through on the 30th of October are ones that really accord much more with the conservation area. If you look at the shape of the window on the gable, if you look at the fact that we've got now brick until the first floor level, and we have Dutch gables that show the tile work coming right up to the dormer window, as opposed to a big and obtrusive structure. This building, both in terms of LCC highways, how they reach the road, and also how it looks for the neighbours, has improved considerably. And that's down to our planning officers, because if you'd read the Barton Wilmore report trashing the conservation area and saying, well, it's open season because of Christchurch School, you would have felt that no changes would need to be made. But in fact, now, through iteration, we have a reasonable property that's been extended along the right lines, in my view.
Okay, thank you. Jonathan Nixon.
Thanks, Chair. I think this is an improvement on what is there now. I see no reason why we shouldn't just crack on with it, and with that in mind, I would move approval.
Okay, thank you. Do we have anyone to second that motion?
I'll second.
Second.
Sorry, who was that speaking?
Margaret.
Councillor Fleck.
Hi, Margaret.
Oh.
Yeah. Just to explain to you all, for some reason, Teams has decided to give me one video picture at a time tonight. I've lost all my multi-screen. So if I don't hear you or see you put your hand up, I don't know what's happening. So I'm not being rude. I apologise. Okay, so that we have a proposal on the table to pass the application 551. We have a proposer and a seconder. Is everybody in favour? I will wait the appointed time to see if anybody wishes to say nay. I'm therefore assuming that this proposal is unanimously passed. Is everybody happy with that? Yep, that's passed. Thank you very much indeed, councillors. Next up is 0625. The applicant, Mr. John Collinson. Are you there, sir?
I am. Can you hear me?
I can indeed. The floor is yours. 3 minutes would be nice, but I will let you go a bit longer if you feel you must.
I'm John Collinson. I live at Farleigh Farm. I've lived here all my life. We farm 300 acre with 200 milk cows and 100 young ones. And I had an accident in March with a sheep, and I find it difficult to walk to what I did. And I have a lot of pain in my back. And we just need another man to help here, because it's only me and my son, and we could do with a herdsman. And when you get a good herdsman, they want a dwelling, and the only dwelling here is what here. So I just assume we had a redundant building, it's just among the other buildings. And to turn it into a bungalow for me and my wife, and well, I can't really say a lot more than that, Tony. Just, I'm not into this speaking, though. Well, that's so much that I can say. I don't think I'm asking anything unreasonable. So I'll go to do with that, Tony, mate. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Connaughton. I think we get the overall picture, and it's good to hear it from the horse's mouth, as it were. Mr. Watson, if you're there, perhaps you'd like to comment at this stage.
Yeah, yes, Chairman, if I may. Chairman, we have a set of policies both locally and nationally. They're there to ensure that there's an equity in the system. They're there to make sure that applications are considered properly, and they're there to make sure that exceptions to policy, if there are justified. Chairman, you look at the national policy framework, and that says you avoid isolated houses in the open countryside unless there are specific justifications for that. Quite rightly, otherwise we would have our landscape littered with new properties. Chairman, that has with it an element of having to justify the proposals. I fully understand what Mr. Collinson's gone through in terms of the personal issues, but there are not sound planning reasons to justify allowing a new property in the countryside. If we do that, then basically we will start to judge an individual's worth and merit in their own individual circumstances for justifying houses in the countryside. So I will be slightly critical of the applicant here. We have asked for justifications to be submitted, and I've had quite a few emails with the agents over the last couple of days, even suggesting that they defer the applications so that they can give us some policy justifications, some planning justifications for this, and to give us at least something to, if you will, put our planning teeth into to assess the merits of the case. But if I'm being blunt, Chairman, we just have not got that. And whilst I've got sympathy for individual people's circumstances, just to say I need another house doesn't give you any planning merits for you to assess whether the normal planning policies should be set aside to allow a new house on this farming enterprise. There may well be a justification, Chairman, but as it stands, being quite planning brutal, shall I say, you have absolutely no information before you that could justify allowing an isolated new property in the open countryside. So, Chairman, if you want to determine this, I'm quite clear that the application needs to be refused because it just lacks it's devoid of any merit at the moment, in my view, my professional view. Or you could, Chairman, as I've suggested to the agent, defer this and ask for further planning justification grounds to be submitted so that at least you've got some more information on which to base a reasonable planning decision. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Watson. I have Councillor Greaves wishing to speak.
Thank you, Chair. Before I talk about planning technicalities and follow up from Neil Watson, I think it's worth putting the application in context. First of all, this is a highly successful farming business, or it has been, I assume it still is, in a very difficult area, which is dairy farming, which is not the most thriving aspect of farming in this country at the moment for various reasons. And it's been a family farm, a successful family farm, and I think This is the second major the second planning application affecting the farm that I can remember. The previous one was to build a new milking shed, I think, and various other aspects. When would that be? 20 years ago, Mr. Collinson? 25 years ago?
10 years ago, Tony.
Only 10 years ago. Oh, time passes.
Yeah.
And the recommendation from the planners was to turn that down. And that was I'm right, aren't I? And
Yes.
that was partly because it was thought that it was too big and it would not look nice from the other side of the valley. Basically, it would affect the view across the valley. But the committee, quite rightly, in my opinion, voted to allow that in order to allow the business to continue to run in a very successful way. And there are times, I think, when planning, almost always really, but when planning is a compromise between planning purity and getting on with things. Is this the same kind of thing? Well, my understanding is that the reason that this is being put forward, and I'll ask Mr. Collinson when I've finished if what I'm saying is correct, but my understanding is that as a result of the accident that Mr. Collinson had, he decided that he and his wife had to think hard about where they were going to live in their retirement. Now, some people say old farmers never retire and they just carry on like some old politicians. But everybody has to wind down and everybody has to think about what they're going to do when they get to the stage where they can't do what they've been doing all their life. And in order to retire and to maintain the farm, then they need a herdsman. I don't know if they've actually got one now or whether they're looking for one. And I think that one of the things we've discussed before in this planning committee in terms of local farms, local dairy farms, is the need for a herdsman to be on site and not have to get in their car and drive 20 miles or whatever it is when something happens. Because if you're looking after animals, things happen all the time, and sometimes they happen in the middle of the night, in the early hours of the morning, etc. And therefore, the view is being taken, as I understand it, that they need a herdsman who will live on site and will form part of the working team on the farm, as Mr. Collinson draws back, as older people always have to do, and goes into retirement. And Mr. and Mrs. Collinson want to continue to live on the farm, which has been Collinson's farm, I think, for all his life, and certainly as long as I remember, and to continue living there. Now, I don't know whether Mr. Watson could fit that into a reasonable exception to the planning policies that are laid down and they're set out in the report, and they're fairly clear that a new dwelling in that location in the countryside, other things being equal or nothing else being equal, would not be allowed. I am of the view that planning ought to be able to take account of personal circumstances, although I accept very much that you're giving planning permission for the buildings and for the uses and not to individuals. But I still think that in circumstances like this, we ought to try and find some good reasons for making an exception. Now, I put it that way. I don't know if we were to pass it tonight, Mr. Watson would want to refer it to Policy and Resources, or whether Mr. Watson thinks that the applicant, through his agent, could put forward a case which, whether Mr. Watson agreed with it or not, was nevertheless acceptable enough for him to allow us to pass it. And so I'm asking Mr. Watson that first, and then I'll ask Mr. Collinson if I've summed up the circumstances of this family farm correctly.
Okay, Mr. Watson.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm in a way I'm being asked to, in a planning sense, do a bit of crystal ball gazing. What I understand is that it is a reasonably large enterprise. There probably would be justification for some form of additional accommodation on there. Just from my past experience of dealing with these things, it's probably a large enough enterprise. But what we do need is an assessment of that to tell us that. How big is it? What man hours are there? What is the agricultural need on there? There may well be a chairman justification if that is done in a cohesive way. But in terms of the fairness argument, which we've just heard about, we do ask other farms, new enterprises, to give us that information so that we as a planning authority can judge that. We just haven't got that before us for us to be able to analyse it. So the answer to Councillor Greaves is probably, but without that detail, I am somewhat crystal ball gazing.
Right, I think I know what I want to move, but can I first ask Mr. Collins, and have I summed up the circumstances of the farm correctly?
You have, yes. I don't want to move from here, Tony. I was born in this house, and I would like to spend the rest of my days up here.
Right, okay, I understand. And if you get your herdsman who lives there, you will still be involved to a degree in the running of the farm. Well, I know that's true. I don't think you could stop yourself being so. Okay, I'd like to move, therefore, that we defer it and formally ask Mr. Collinson through his agent to bring us the kind of report, the kind of case that Mr. Watson has suggested he might. And then we can discuss it perhaps at the next meeting and see where we go.
Yeah, sure. That's fine, Councillor Greaves. Just for your information, I do know that Mr. Watson has been trying to get further information, and he's sort of been talking to a brick wall with people involved. So hopefully this will open up the log jam and we can get the information we need.
Yeah, I might be able to help with that.
Yeah, good. Okay, so do I have a seconder for that proposal?
I'll second that, Chair.
Thank you. So all those in favour, I'm going to assume that everybody is in favour unless you indicate to the contrary.
Chair, I think Sarah Coburn-Price had a hand up, but you might have missed it.
Right, sorry, I didn't see a little hand. Sarah?
Just wanted to say, really, that Margaret and I and Paul in Trawden have this kind of problem a lot of the time. And I haven't been a councillor nearly as long as Councillor Greaves, but I hate to hear the dread words when we've made the kind of decision that's based on sentiment and knowing someone and what you'd call understanding of human nature. And the dread words that we all hear, usually in Colne Town Hall, are, we are where we are. And I think we should strive to avoid hearing we are where we are whenever we can. And so therefore I do support Councillor Greaves in this, because we want to never say we are where we are. We've done everything we can to get all the information so we can make a correct decision. Otherwise, I would agree with what Mr. Watson has had to say.
Absolutely. Okay, so I'll go back to the proposal that has been seconded. I'm going to assume that everybody is in favour unless you indicate that you are not. Okay, so that's unanimous. So then we're waiting for more information, and this will come back probably in a month's time, maybe two. Is that okay, Mr. Watson?
Yes, Chairman. So I was trying to unmute.
No, sorry, that's absolutely fine. Okay, if everybody's happy with that. So next up, we've got these two applications, 0867 and 068. These are for our recommendations only. We have a full list of 8 speakers to deal with this tonight. So I just remind councillors, this is only for our recommendation. This has already been heard due to its geographical position at West Craven, and I believe that they sent it to P&R with the points that were raised by members of the public, the speakers, and didn't send any of their own recommendations. Is that true, Mr. Watson?
Yes, Chairman, it is.
Yep.
Yes.
So just to confirm, I've got that right. So it's for you to decide. We will have the 8 speakers, and then we can have a discussion. And if you wish, we can send recommendations to P&R. What I will do with the speakers, I will ask you all to keep to 3 minutes, if possible. I do realise the speakers that go at the beginning of the argument have more points to cover than those at the end. Please do not repeat the same points. When we've heard a point, we've heard a point. We don't need to be told it 3 or 4 times. It is not helpful to anybody. So keep on song of what you want to say, and please don't repeat yourself. What I will do is I will ask the applicant, Gillian Taylor, to start. She has 2 other people speaking in support of her, and then I will ask the people that wish to speak against this application to then speak. And as I say, approximately 3 minutes each. So, Gillian Taylor, are you there?
I certainly am, yes. Good evening.
Good evening. The floor is yours.
Okay, so all I want to do is share the space I've got. I'm really privileged to live where I live, and the creation of this rural business is to share that space with local community and schools. There were some new concerns that I had no idea about raised on Tuesday. In answer to that, I've been out today with my phone and I've done a little video live, just talking through some of the issues that people raised, hoping that I can allay fears. There was a lot of misinformation, a lot of misunderstanding behind some of those concerns. And I did apologise to the people on Tuesday regarding that. Moving on to the actual applications, I did a bit of research on the DEFRA website, and I found these 2 planning policy that give me hope that we could actually do something up here at the farm. And it's this: planning should take a positive approach to well-conceived farm diversification proposals for business purposes that are consistent in their scale with their rural location. And the second one, farm diversification proposals should not be rejected where they would give rise to only modest additional traffic and would not have significant impact on minor roads. And I just want to throw a few facts out, or the way I see it, that kind of fit us into those 2 requests, if you like, from planning policy. So this is very fast. Our operations, to reassure you, are geared to being small but beautiful. Right, this is because the groups that we work with need to be small groups. They need plenty of attention. They need to feel significant in the space. We're not interested in big groups because you get lost in a crowd. But also, we've got a very tricky access. So we've 2 access roads, but both of them are single track. So for that reason, we want to keep the scale very small. And in light of that, we have produced some traffic restrictions, if you like, or conditions, which our rural solicitor drew up. And these conditions are in direct response to conversations I've been having with planning since 2012, believe it or not. The last thing Alex Cameron told me to do was go away and come back when you've got some sort of specific ideas on numbers. So this is the use. These are the conditions on the use. The use hereby permitted shall be limited to a maximum of 12 persons visiting the site for group educational activities within the same time period. No more than 2 periods a day, morning and afternoon in essential, and then Sundays and Saturdays or bank holidays or weekends. This approved number of persons shall be transported to the site by a maximum of 2 minibuses operating. It's all there to read in detail, so I won't go on about it. I think in relation to the access, because the access really is our main sort of challenge. I'm going to say challenge because I like challenges. We've created a solution to the traffic, and it's called the traffic management plan. And this plan we've actually been using now for 18 months, and it works for the groups that we use it for. You've got it in front of your councillors, so I'm kind of just going to leave it there, and I'll shut up. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up, I have Canon Alison Ashworth-Taylor. Are you there, please?
I am. Thank you, Chair. Thank you. I will be quick. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to address you in this way. I've been in primary teaching for 35 years and head teacher of various schools for 21 years. I now work independently as a consultant for school leaders. So why am I speaking today? Well, throughout my 35 years in this profession, I'm absolutely committed to ensuring that all children have opportunities to learn and study outdoors. I'm absolutely passionate about the benefits, which I've spent so much time researching. I'm not going to go through all the research, but I really am mindful of things that you've been talking about today about antisocial behaviour. And I know that this engaging with the outdoors really helps people develop that sense of place, leading to that greater engagement with the community and appreciation of the opportunities available to live and work in the local area. We really need that safe and supportive setting for our young people to enhance social skills, encouraging those loving and meaningful relationships across generations that foster that tolerance, respect and kindness. We certainly need that at the moment. I don't want to patronise you. Research is there for you all to see, but I could share with you so many personal anecdotes of the sheer power of learning outside. Children and young people who have literally opted out of learning, but whose life chances have been literally transformed because of outdoor learning. I've always believed that each child has a unique gift and talent, and it's our job as educators to discover it. I have seen children literally transformed by learning outdoors. I've always felt humbled about the opportunity presented to me over the years to help those current and future generations. And I am sure that you have had so many opportunities too in your roles as officers and counsellors to transform the life chances of young people, but not just for now, but for the future. I actually believe you have this opportunity today. I believe this planning application has the power to effect change, not just on the now, but also the future. What heavy responsibility, but truly vital role you have tonight. I plead with you to consider the true value of this awe-inspiring impact that this work could have. Please work with the applicant to overcome any barriers and please make this happen, for this is a uniquely exciting opportunity for those in your area who you seek to serve. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. That was very much on point, so I thank you for that. Mrs. Kirsty Pugh, have I pronounced that correctly?
Yeah, that is correct.
Good, your floor is yours.
Thank you. I'll try and stick to the time. Hello, everybody. I'm here this evening to tell you about the Alternative School, or TAS as we are known, how we've worked with Jill and her team at Harwey's Farm over many years now. We're a school that works with children who have been excluded from one or more educational settings, at high risk of being excluded from many more places if they don't come to us. Often the children we work with have been passed from pillar to post, and we are absolutely the last chance for them. All of the children we work with have social, emotional and behavioural challenges and areas of extra need. Many are from very low income families with extreme trauma in their background, and almost all of them have never had the opportunity to visit a farm, learn how to play in the woods or know how to make positive friendships, and their lives revolve around a fight or flight instinct that they have learnt is what life should be like. The farm plays a pivotal role in helping us to plan for and educate these children in the areas of personal, social and emotional development and growth, all key areas that will ensure that children can progress on and be successful in life. It is these key areas that are much harder, and we are very thankful for the opportunity that the farm has given us over the last few years. The work that we do is all about getting children back on track We teach them that anyone can succeed in life if given the right environment and given the right support. We and Jill believe that all children have their own strengths, and this is taught and encouraged through the work that Jill does at the Forest School. Not only do our children progress in areas that are more challenging to plan for in the classroom, but 80% of them have stated that it is the highlight of their week. This helps us to help the children keep motivated, engage them, and gives them something to work towards. If we didn't have this provision, it would be really difficult to get the pupils engaged in the classroom. Our pupils know that visiting Jill and a team will always be fun, whatever the weather, and even on the coldest days when pupils are looking forward to going and seeing the sheep, talking to the chickens, and working with Jill in the outside kitchen and the inside kitchen. All of our pupils are achieving nationally recognised qualifications. They're all following a national curriculum. Some of the activities that young people have accessed at the farm include forest school activities such as whittling, building dens, collecting and learning about nature, campfire cooking, safety around the stream, conservation and planting trees, learning how to grow vegetables, recycling projects, upcycling, science lessons around the wind turbine, and photography projects. In fact, we have one of our youngsters that has been going there for 2.5 years. When he first came into school with us, he was curled up in a ball in the classroom by the radiator and wouldn't speak to anybody. Through encouraging him to go up to the farm over these last 2.5 years, he is now leading a Duke of Edinburgh team and an expedition. He's running a photography project, and he's just come on leaps and bounds. And I have many more stories like that that I could share with you. So for me, using Jill in the farm is a fantastic, fantastic resource. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. That's all the speakers in favour of the application. Now I have 4 people that wish to raise objections, and I will start with Lindsay Bowker. Good evening.
Good evening.
The floor is yours. If you could keep to 3 minutes, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
I'll try my best, Chairman. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Firstly, a not-for-profit kit business gives the impression that the applicant is charitable and a non-profit making entity. Speaking candidly, this is incorrect. You can view the business accounts on Companies House, which does indeed confirm that the intention of the business is indeed to make profit. The council has refused previous planning application to Harweys, where 3 Harweys officers concluded that any commercial development would give rise to severe and unacceptable highway safety impacts due to the lack of passing places. The critical point here is the current application is no different to the 3 that have been refused previously. In summary, the access road to Harweys from both Cobb Lane and Skipton Old Road is extremely limited and clearly unsuitable for a more intensive use of Harweys. The current applications do not propose the provision of new passing places. It is proposed that visitors to site can ring Harweys prior to arrival to obtain clearance. Mr Watson confirmed this proposal was unenforceable at Tuesday's meeting, stating that this highway measure relies on goodwill and you can't force people to ring up, which is what this process relies on, and that there is no condition you can apply that wouldn't be enforceable. To summarise, number 1, there has been a precedent set from the previous application relating to passing places which needs to be brought forward as confirmed by Neil Watson at Tuesday's meeting. Number 2, the scale of this proposal far outweighs what was being proposed when planning was granted for the kennels and will have a far bigger impact on highway safety. Number 3, the applicant's alternative to passing places, i.e. ringing up, is unenforceable. Number 4, Jerusalem has planning for their business activities and has been able to adequately address highway safety by means of a widened access, formal passing point and purpose-built car park, given they are the landowners and not reliant upon third parties. The NPPF, paragraph 108, states that safe and suitable access to the site is to be achieved for all users and that any significant impacts from the development on highway safety should be cost-effectively mitigated to an acceptable degree. It is therefore requested that the application is refused by the council for the following reason. The proposed development would result in unacceptable highway safety impact, contrary to policy ENV4 of the local plan, part 1, core strategy and paragraphs 108 to 109 of the NPPF. With reference to the retrospective application for the completion of the track into the BH woodland, which was commenced during the bird nesting season last August, if the proposed education use is clearly not acceptable for highway safety reasons, then there is no reasonable requirement for the new track. Therefore, planning should be refused and the land reinstated. As a final comment, could I please ask the Planning Department, through the Chairman, to address the correct public right-of-way as governed under statute law, so that the committee members are fully aware that the whole track is indeed used as a public right-of-way. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Next, I have Lavina Lindsay.
Good evening, Chairman. Thank you for this opportunity. This woodland and all its inhabitants have rights. My biggest concern is the impact of the educational and leisure activities on this precious BHS designated woodland. As Mr. Watson said on Tuesday, this BHS is one down from an SSSI. I understand with empathy and that Gillian would like to share this woodland. What I would like to know is how you, Gillian, and how you, Pendle Borough Council, will honour it so that it thrives and flourishes. I work in children's education and am in favour of projects that serve their needs. However, I am cautious about the sustainability of the Skipton Road access, having visited the site. I have been disappointed by Jill's lack of engagement and collaboration with us locals. The absence of inclusive communication has concerned me. It's made me curious and even question the motives and the agenda of the CIC. I experienced a mismatch between the values a CIC is to uphold and the actions of the CIC. I live below the woods at Kitchen Farm, and it's been the sounds and the noises coming from the wood and the appearance of structures that made me realise that something was changing in the landscape. Would a change of use lead to a bigger commercial operation? At this stage, we have no idea how Jill is looking to scale this enterprise. I'm curious to know how many weeks of the year the wood would be used and how many actual numbers would be coming through it. Would camping be limited to tents only in the field that is currently proposed? Or would it be permitted elsewhere on the 21 hectares at Harley? Would the camping exclude public use? Would the new cabin be exclusively for teaching and workshops, or could it become a bunkhouse for overnight accommodation? Would hardware such as zip lines be allowed in the woodland? Would fire making be allowed in the woodland? Would there be limits on nighttime activities in the woodland? Would lighting be permitted? Would other individuals and organisations or agencies be allowed to use the land and the facilities for retreats, camping, creative courses or outdoor days? How would the council ensure the appropriate woodland management is in place so this habitat doesn't decline? The site was designated 30 years ago and has been without appropriate management. Would regular environmental assessments be carried out to assess the impact on habitat? How would wildlife and nesting birds be safeguarded in the breeding season? Might the woodland be given a break every few years from any human disturbance, much like they do at Glastonbury Festival? And in closing, is it time now for the council to resurvey this woodland and make recommendations for its future? Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. I now have Tracy van der Brand. Good evening, are you with us?
I believe Tracy rejected the invitation to join.
Right, I understand. Thank you for that. Amelia Balker.
Evening.
Good evening. The floor is yours. 3 minutes would be nice if you could manage it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Material consideration should be given to highway safety under the Town and Country Planning Act. I confirm the planning application does indeed refer to 2 groups of 30 children per day, yet fails to state that each group arrives in 2 separate minibuses in both the morning and the afternoon. The application is misleading by suggesting that 2 groups may only constitute 2 minibuses per day, creating vehicular movement, which doesn't sound significant in the grand scheme of things. Perhaps this is the reason that Mr. Cameron has suggested that there is no impact on residential amenity. I can speak with conviction on the following points, considering this application is retrospective. Committee members should consider there are 2 minibuses in the morning and the same in the afternoon, dropping off and later picking up the children. That's 16 vehicular movements per day through Jerusalem Farm Riding School, where it is very busy. However, no consideration has been given to the vehicular movements created by the 4 volunteers and 2 staff members working on the site. Consider that if an additional 6 people arrive in each day, in the morning and the afternoon, using their own vehicles, because obviously public transport is not an option, this constitutes an additional 12 movements through the riding school, which, when combined with the minibuses, amounts to 28 vehicular movements per day created by this change of use. Committee members should be advised that these figures do not include the parents and teachers who also visit the site. This was confirmed by the speaker from the alternative school on Tuesday's committee meeting. In addition to these movements, there are 2 other businesses which are operated from Harwees Farm. Where will all of these vehicles park? It is reasonable to assume that, based on the current size of the proposal, these additional vehicles could bring the grand total to circa 35 vehicle movements per day, driving directly through Jerusalem Farm Riding School. I ask committee members to please consider all vehicles associated with the business activities at Harwees and the increased danger on the highways due to the increased scale and intensity of use. This is a crucial point because the planning department appeared to be only considering the minibuses suggested on the application. However, 35 vehicles passing through a farmyard every day would create a residential amenity problem under policy WRK5, in addition to a highway safety issue for the riding school under policy ENV4. Apologies. Considering the likely scenario of 35 vehicle movements relating to this proposal at Harwees every day, I assert that this proposal is not sustainable whatsoever and therefore is not in compliance with policies WRK5, SDP2 and ENV4. This is due to Harwees Farm being a rural area where walking, cycling and using public transport is not feasible. My question for the planning office through the chair is, have the vehicles of staff, volunteers, teachers and parents been considered within the planning officer's report, or is it merely a couple of minibuses as alluded to in the application? Further, how would you propose to apply restrictions via conditions which should sufficiently be precise to make it capable of being complied with for many years to come? I would also ask the committee to consider what has changed in this recent application which is considered as substantially different to previous applications where a precedent has been set in deeming the access track unsuitable due to lack of passing points. I finish by stating that I am aware of an additional 4 businesses within a 6-mile radius which are suitable for Harwees Kit customers. These businesses are already operating sustainably and offering the same service proposed by Harwees Kit. Considering the locality of these businesses to Harwees serving for the same purpose, I do not believe there is a requirement for this additional business in a location which is described by the planning officer as not a sustainable location for education and tourism uses. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Sarah Watmark, I apologise if I mispronounced that.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening to you.
Okay, so Kelbrook Wood is a protected biological heritage site. The significant ecological value of the woods, as identified by Natural England, Wildlife Trust and Lancashire County Council, must outweigh the need of converting the proposed land from agricultural use to that of education and camping. The proposed development is retrospective and seeks to complete the construction of a new access track within an area of land designated as DHS. The proposed track is not reasonably necessary for any other purposes other than that to serve educational use. The harm caused to this locally designated VHS site is not outweighed by any commercial benefits associated with Harwee's kick. The development is therefore contrary to policy ENV1, protecting and enhancing our natural and historic environments from the Pendle Local Plan Part 1. Our great concerns over children and adults alike visiting Kelbrook Woods are supported by Councillor Rosemary from West Craven Committee during Tuesday evening's meeting earlier this week. We should not be encouraging the movement of groups of people through this woodland. The woodland is home to countless species of bird, including that of rooks, which can be seen of an evening from our home flying into and out of the forest. Other sighted animals include that of deer. Not forgetting the woods are also home to an array of protected species as set out in the Bombers report, which I encourage council members to consider carefully. Daily movements of groups through the woods will most definitely disturb the wildlife and force their movement onto another habitat for which the area cannot support. Condition on movement, and particularly noise generated by groups of children, is not enforceable due to children being children. To further my concerns, my neighbour Ellie Phipps, a practising veterinary surgeon, has identified in her letters to council that the area is at high risk of TB. This past year, the government have been requesting carcasses of any deer and badgers found in the area as they are trying to source the reason for irregular TB spread. Driving wildlife out of this woodland could pose a huge threat to further wildlife, local neighbouring farms and their livestock. If these species from the woodland don't have TB, their undoubtable leave will most definitely put them at risk of contracting it. Despite Gillian and her team's efforts to enhance the biodiversity of the plant species, I can only understand that for the wildlife it poses a huge threat. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. I'll ask Mr. Watson if he's got any comments on what's been said so far before I throw it open. Mr. Watson?
Yes, Jim. Just a few points here. This is clearly an application. I said this on Tuesday as well. That's bringing up emotive issues from people, and some of the comments being made need to be tempered in terms of the actual realities of this situation. There are highway issues, there are other issues, but you have to look at the scale of what is being proposed, and you have to be rational in terms of those impacts. I'm not saying that this is an application that should be approved or refused. We will deal with that with our recommendation to policy and resources. But 30 vehicle movements a day, if it was on tortuous tracks and horrific tracks and blind bends, etc., would be different than the impact of 30 vehicles on straight highways where you've got full visibility. So you've got to temper what may be what may be traffic movements to the nature of that highway that's there. For example, Chairman, just a couple of points. I do not agree, and when I first got here, I was asked to go back to my last employee, where the council refused applications where vehicles were passing residential properties going onto a housing estate. The council refused it on that basis, and quite understandably, there was an award of cost made against the council. Chairman, I'm very clear on a couple of issues. There are no residential amenity issues here that would in any way result in a refusal. Highways, yes, there are concerns there. I will suggest members concentrate on those issues in many ways, but precedents are only set for the same applications. We've had a riding school, and we've had kennels at Harways Farm, both with different sets of conditions attached to them on highway safety. You have to look at the individual merits of those impacts and apply or not conditions according to those. So, Chairman, yes, you would look at past history, but there is no precedent set with this. And just my final point here, when we talk about precedents, the tests in policy have changed. It's no longer a balance in terms of highway safety. The government have changed the balance so that the effects have to be significant. So there are different policy provisions in place now than there were when those previous applications were in place. So there's a different test that decision makers have to look at. Chairman, in terms of just one more issue, sorry. Whether the whole of the track is a public right of way. We are not the rights of way authority. It is not on the definitive map. The point here will be, we know that track is used by walkers and by people on horses. The issue is, what are the impacts, as opposed to whether it is designated as a right of way or not. That, in my view, is a bit of a red herring to what the impacts will be. That's the critical issues we're looking at. So looking at traffic movements, the makeup of the highway, whether the impacts for the second application on the woodland, I agree with that, but we're talking about groups of children here who will be supervised, because children aren't allowed to go and just roam unabated. So, Chairman, a bit of sense, I think, and a bit of reality for decision making, as opposed to perhaps some of the emotive points that have been made. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Watson. Before I throw it on to all the councillors, I can add some facts about the roads. I live on one of the roads that this will affect, at the bottom of Moss Houses, which then goes up to the Kelbrook, turning for the shooting lodge, which then feeds into Holwys Farm, which is the upper entrance to what is being proposed. The other side of that is Cobb Lane. Some 4 or 5 years ago, West Craven Committee, with input from us, refused an application just over the border out of our area in West Craven for a development on a field which had an access already to the road for camping and, I believe, 3 or 4 caravans. And that was refused on the fact that the highways here cannot take it. There are very few passing places on the Fulridge side, which is the Moss Houses side. It's a little better going into Kelbrook, but I wouldn't say it was very good. Those are some facts that might help you. Councillors, anybody? Councillor Coburn-Price.
I listened very carefully to what was said by the education providers, both very passionate speakers, and I am a supporter of forest schools and children getting away from their dreary bedrooms and their computers and playing in the woods or exploring the countryside. And I would like to pause part way through what I'm going to say, because I'd like to ask Mr. Watson a question. Has Margaret got her hand up as well? She might be asking the same question, which is that several months ago, the Pendle Borough Council Environment Officer actually took it upon himself to give Margaret and I an incredibly detailed, with endless maps showing sorts of peat, and very, very complicated, to the point whereby we both agreed afterwards our heads were reeling after taking on all this information. He gave us this very detailed presentation about peat drainage and his concerns that he felt about this track that is already partly in existence. And yet the officer's report says there's been another ecology report provided, and now presumably he is satisfied. But I looked on the portal and I couldn't see it. So I wonder whether that could be clarified.
Mr. Watson?
Thank you, Chairman. There is additional information on the portal. I will have to check whether anything's been missed, but I know that additional ecology information is on there, Chairman. I know Mr. Johnson has looked at the additional information, and his view is that the ecology of the area with the woodland growing, etc., has changed over time. So it's not the same ecological value as it was 20 years ago. And Mr. Johnson, having reviewed that, and he is the expert, I don't profess to be an expert with this, has come to the conclusion that his view, the impacts will be okay, providing that drainage was conditioned through a planning condition about that the drainage of the track. So it's been a steady process, but he is now at a point where he is of view that it is acceptable in terms of those ecological impacts.
Okay, thank you for that. So that was some months ago. Obviously, he's moved on in his thinking. So we are to take from this that in the last few years, then, this land is not as ecologically valuable as it was before. Is that due to the presence of the trees?
Chairman, sorry, through you, Chairman. I won't say it's more or less valuable, Chairman, because I don't think I'm in a position to say that. It just has changed, and the trees have changed what the value of the grasses, etc., that were there at the time were. So it is an evolving situation there, and obviously the more trees you have, it will change the nature and character of the ecological value.
Okay, all right. He focused with us. It was an incredibly complicated presentation. I took notes. He focused with us on sorts of peat. It was a very detailed presentation. I will obviously, before P&R, look for that ecology report. My other observations are really that this application is a bit like the last one, in that we have the potential to end up with the dreaded "we are where we are" scenario, which is we all sort of agree with the aims and the reasoning and all of that, because we do have those beliefs for the community. But then several years down the line, we might find ourselves really rueing that we made this decision. And that worries me. I am concerned with the potential. Let me give you another example on Skipton Old Road. We've got Kevin Guy's plant hire. Now, the residents are often complaining to me about Kevin Guy's plant hire. And I spoke to Mr. Watson and said, you know, all the residents are complaining to me, what can I do? And he said to me, well, today, Sarah, we wouldn't give approval for that business as it is now to be set up in this location. It's not sustainable, but it is over time, through accretions, through change. Now it is what it is. And we are where we are. The dread words of Joe Cooney haunting us horribly, even though we're not in the town hall. I worry about that. And then there were things that, you know, are small things with this application that are sort of possible worries, like the parking's not been formally delineated and it's been asked for. And similarly, the potential interference with the footpaths is a concern. We don't know. It's not been clearly laid out, and I would certainly like to know before P&R. But the thing that worries me most is the actual objection by LCC Highways. And if I can just read out the bottom of page 3, furthermore, we do not consider that the site is a sustainable location as it is not accessible by public transport and it is remote from the public transport network. Adults attending community events would therefore rely on the use of private motor vehicles. This is a concern. For the intensification of vehicle movements over single vehicle width access roads carrying public rights of way. Given the Highways Authority concerns this proposal raises, based on the information provided and site observations, unless satisfactory mitigation measures can be provided, the Highways Development Support Section objects. And I think ultimately, whatever we hear about the peat or the parking or the footpaths, that probably is the crux of the problem with this application. It's a wonderful, wonderful piece of wilderness that we'd all love children and the community to access. But the point of wildernesses is that they are wildernesses and they're hard to reach. And they're two things that are really, really difficult to marry up, aren't they? Because they wouldn't be a wilderness if you could reach them off the junction 31 of the M6. Then it's not a wilderness. And that is a conundrum that we face because we support the aim, but we don't support how you could possibly get there. That's essentially how I feel about it. I'll be interested to hear what my colleagues have to say.
Margaret or Paul Foxley?
Yeah. I just want to agree entirely with what Sarah's just said. I praise and I'm full of admiration for the work that Gillian's doing up there. And yes, it is needed. These children are vulnerable. They need these experiences out in the open air, experiencing the countryside. But I do not believe that this place is the right place. We've talked about the track and the means of getting to the place, to the centre. We've not considered the elements of winter. Going up there just on Skipton Old Road in a car when there's water coming off the fields, which is freezing, it's just a nightmare. It's so dangerous in itself. What happens when you get these youngsters up there and the snow comes down and you can't get any vehicle up and down that track? I just feel that the sustainability of this project is just not viable. And I feel very sad about it because the work that's going on and the project itself is commendable, and nobody is against the work that Gillian is doing there. It's just the fact that I just do not believe, and I've been in education for over 30 years, I don't believe that that's the safe place to put vulnerable youngsters.
Okay.
Could I?
Yeah, please do, Paul, while you're there.
Add to that. Yes, I absolutely understand the benefits to the wider community of a project like this. I'm not in education, although I've lived with it long enough. Yeah, there's clearly benefits to children who are given access to facilities like that. But I have grave concerns, particularly about the highway issue. And I cannot see how the proposed transport management plan, but the transport management plan that I believe has been in place for 18 months, I cannot see how that resolves the issues effectively. It deals or attempts to deal with part of the issue at best, I believe, and as the highways comments have said, it would be completely unenforceable. The whole point here is that it would be impossible to distinguish between different users of the track moving forward. So if there's an increase in traffic, who's to say where that's going, unless you're going to camp out in the field and watch whether vehicles progress past Jerusalem Farm, you're not going to know. So from a highway point of view and from a planning enforcement, if you will, point of view, hate to talk negatively, but we could, as Sarah touched on Shaygate Farm as an example, I think that is an excellent example of where we could end up equivalent to in this instance. And there would be, as I can understand it, absolutely nothing we could do as councillors or as a planning authority to stop that from occurring. The other thing I wanted to just touch on was the ecology report, and I wanted to ask Neil Watson a question. Can I be absolutely clear on this? There's been comments made about the thrust of the applicant's ecology report is the argument that this land, perhaps
should never have been, in his opinion, designated as a biological heritage site. Clearly it was, and it is a biological heritage site, and that even given that it has changed enormously over the past 30 years since being designated. I noticed that there's mention of part of that change being the planting of trees. And can I just ask Neil a simple question first? To clarify, it is still a biological heritage site, is it not?
Yes, Chairman.
Yes. And what does that mean in terms of protection?
Chairman, there's a hierarchy of sites that you go through from, the smaller sites of local importance through to biological heritage sites and then to the national designations of SSSIs. Chairman, the way that they are designated is complex in terms of the variety of species, etc. And I will not try and explain that because it is complex, but it is a rigorous process to designate them. I do not agree with the ecologists that it should not have been designated in the first place because there is a very rigorous process that is gone through to do that. But clearly, the ecological interest, as in many areas, has altered over time.
But sorry, can I ask Neil to expand on that? What can you and can you not do then on a biological heritage site in terms of what are you allowed to change? What are you allowed to do?
Chairman, it has no particular planning status. There are no different laws on there than a piece of farmland in terms of you can plant on there. There's no law preventing you from doing that. You can cut trees down on there if you've got a felling license or you're under the cubic volumes, etc. You can't dig tracks and you can't move soil about because that's development under the Planning Act, under Section 55 of the Planning Act. But it has no, that I'm aware of, specific lawful protection in itself because it's a tier below SSSIs and they do have protection because they're that tier above. But Chairman, a long-winded way of saying there's no specific protection afforded to them, but in planning decisions, they clearly have a higher than normal ecological value, which needs to be taken on board.
Okay, thank you. So, because I mean, one of the points I was going to make is that part of the argument that the ecology report puts for this biological heritage site not being given great weight, frankly, is that the character of it has been changed in part by the planting of a load of new trees. And that is part of the activity, as I understand it, of the applicant. And so, it kind of plays into their own hands to change the habitat and then want to run a track across it. I think the main issue here is the highways. And I asked myself two simple questions when I was thinking about this yesterday. And first of all, if I was looking for suitable property to set up a business such as this, then would I consider Horder's Farm as having suitable potential? And quite frankly, the answer to that is no, I'd look elsewhere. The second question is, if I already lived at Horder's Farm and was looking for opportunities to diversify what I did, would I look at this type of use, bringing lots of people into the remote location along a long single track access, and think, oh yeah, that's a great idea. It's got good potential, and I've done my due diligence, and clearly it's going to be a sensible and sustainable thing to do. Again, I have to be honest, my answer would be no. I would say, no, not really. I'd look elsewhere. And I think, to me, that says it all. And that's all, frankly, to do with the highway, mostly to do with the highway issue. I'll leave it at that. I don't want to go on any longer, but that is my grave concern about this application and its potential to expand if it were to be granted. I know we're not making a decision tonight, but I would propose that we word a strongly worded recommendation to Policy and Resources to consider very seriously the nature of the highway issue and to consider refusal.
Okay. Councillor Gray.
Thank you, Chair. I've been disappointed by the discussion so far by councillors who just seem to me to be going out of their way to find reasons to undermine what essentially is a very desirable and very attractive proposition. I accept and understand it has to be a reasonable proposition as far as planning is concerned, and that is what we should be discussing. I also think that the highways issue is probably the single main issue. But the last remark, I took exception actually to the last remarks from Councillor Paul Foxley, who was sort of advising people that, well, really, this isn't a very good business proposition, and from his point of view, we shouldn't be doing it. I don't think that patronising sort of attitude is what we're there as a planning committee for. We have to accept that people make decisions which of what they want to do, and there may be viable financial propositions, they might not. But in many cases, unless there are very serious other implications of them not being viable, that's nothing to do with us.
I was not talking about viability.
Okay. Even so, lots of people do lots of things that I don't really think is a sensible thing to do, but I don't regard it as my job to say that they shouldn't do it. I didn't understand what he meant by saying it was not safe, but that's a different matter. And I don't think we make planning decisions on the basis of whether they are easily enforceable or not. That's nothing to do with us. If there are complaints that people are breaking planning laws and not adhering to conditions, whatever it is, then that's one thing, but we don't make the planning decision on the basis that it makes a planning enforcement officer's job easier. I was interested in what you said, Mr. Chairman, about Cobb Lane and that. I think actually everybody accepts. I think, as far as I understand it, reading the stuff and so on, that the applicants accept that the main access, if this were to take place, would be from Skipton Old Road. So I don't think the state of highways up where the chairman lives is the most relevant aspect, although clearly the highways aspect has to be looked at. And Skipton Old Road, whatever we think about the speed limits on it and the speed that traffic goes, is not a narrow single track country lane. And it's clearly a road which could take a great deal more traffic than it actually does. Perfectly safely, it might need some things to do that. As far as the planned hire situation is concerned, the plant hire business up Skipton Old Road, I won't go into what my memory of the history of that is, but I think comparing what is being proposed here as a relatively small scale educational facility with a plant hire business is a bit ludicrous, actually. And so I don't think that's, despite the fact that we probably all agree about the plant hire business and the position that the council's in there, I don't think the two are in any way comparable. And as far as the county council report on the highways, and I think I've seen the full report that the county council officer made when she visited some time ago, I just fell about laughing. Is this the same county council which time and time again produces highways reports on planning applications which we all think are written from a different planet? That they say, no problem here, when we know that a vast amount of increased traffic and the local circumstances and all the rest of it make a proposition quite horrific. And the county just say, no, shrug the shoulders, it's okay. We go through this time and time again on planning applications. We want to turn things down for highways reasons, and we can't do satisfactorily because the county won't support us. And if it went to appeal, we would be had for huffing, as they say. And yet here we have somebody turning up from the county and producing a detailed report on a small amount of traffic on local farm tracks. I just thought it was, well, just laughable, actually. I don't think that, I think the extent to which they thought it was a great danger. I can see that the access and the increased amount of traffic would be a nuisance, and particularly a nuisance to people at Jerusalem Farm. I wasn't clear how it was a nuisance to the people who live at Kitchen Farm, which I don't think uses that access, unless I'm told I'm wrong. I think it uses a quite different access. But I understand that it would be a greater nuisance. Would it be a serious danger? Been talk of rights of way. I mean, I've been looking at the 2.5-inch map, the 1 to 25,000 Ordnance Survey map that shows rights of way in some detail. And I think that most of the route, most of the track from Skipton Old Road to Jerusalem Farm and beyond to Harwey's Farm is a right of way on foot. I mean, it's a public footpath. There's a little bit of it where the right of way shown on the map diverges from the track, and no doubt nobody ever uses that. And why that is so, I have no idea. But Mr. Watson said it wasn't on the definitive map. I've not seen the definitive map, but it is certainly on the Ordnance Survey map, which is usually pretty accurate on these matters. I think the argument that the proposed development of the teaching building would seriously disrupt rights of way is not a serious argument. And I understand that's been sorted anyway, to establish that it's not a serious argument. And if it is, then no doubt the location could be moved slightly to avoid doing that. But that isn't a problem, I don't think. So, Mr. Watson says there are no residential amenity issues. One of the objectors said that children were making a noise. Well, children do make a noise, and if we're saying that this is a part of the countryside which children should not visit, well, they can visit on the footpaths anyway, and people are upset by children making a noise during the day, then I say I'm sorry. That seems to me to be, should we say, a very weak argument. The question of the ecological value I can't comment on, but I think I'm just looking at the points that people have made. There seems to be a view that because it's a biological heritage site, people should stay away, and that public access in biologically more sensitive areas should be prevented. I have to say, I fundamentally disagree with that. I do agree that if there are nature reserves of any level, whether they're local or national nature reserves, if there are nature conservation areas, triple SIs, biological heritage sites, then public access needs to be properly managed. And if there is a lot of unmanaged public access of an undesirable form, it can cause great damage. But all the evidence is that where people manage it properly and understand it and respect it, then there is no fundamental conflict. All the evidence is that, and that by people becoming more knowledgeable and understanding about wildlife and about plant life and about the local countryside, then the likelihood is that as they grow through life, they will become more respectful of it and less willing and able to damage it. That is all the evidence that exists, that it's all about education and immersion in wildlife and in the countryside, and people understanding and learning that it has to be treated properly and respected, and not that if there are plants there, you don't just trample on them, you don't pick them, you don't chase wild animals if you see them, you behave in a sensible and respectful way. So I fundamentally disagree with the idea that an enterprise of this nature would be a seriously harmful thing as far as the local biological site is concerned. And I think all the evidence is on my side on that. Chair, we've not got to determine this. And I have to say that if I was the applicant or if I was one of the objectors, I would be totally mystified by the process that the council is going through on this, but taking it to one area committee, then taking it to another area committee because the parish boundary happens to run along the track at the side of Harweys Farm, and that's a parish boundary which defines our area committees, and it then has to go to policy and resources. I mean, really, they must be totally mystified by this, and I think we ought to apologise to them that for very good reasons we have to put them through this. But I will oppose the motion that's been moved. I think that the arguments are pretty clear. I regret the fact very much that the applicants and the objectors have not so far been able to get together and come up with an acceptable solution to everybody. And I would really urge, in the small amount of time there still is, in the next fortnight before P&R, if that's when it is, that efforts are made to do that. If we were having ordinary meetings, I'd be proposing that we have a meeting and we sit them all around a table and thrash it out, which is what we used to do on planning committees. We'd get people in situations like this. But given the situation we're in now with the COVID business, that's probably not possible. But I would urge people to talk to each other more, talk for the applicants and particularly the main objectors, who I think are Jerusalem Farm, to get together and see if there is not a solution which will work in one way or another. I think there's inevitably going to be conflicts on a little farm track like that. Equally, I believe that the arguments against on the level of highways danger to be caused are should I say, somewhat exaggerated. And if I had anything to do with it, I'd be wanting to get people together to try and thrash out what can be done to come to a solution in which both businesses, both operations can operate to the great benefit of people in Pendle. So I will oppose the motion that's been, I would just pass it straight to Policy and Resources together, the sort of motion that West Craven moved. Councillor Foxley is shaking his head, but he can shake his head. It won't make me support his motion.
Okay, Councillor Lord. Councillor Lord, Dot, you with us?
Yeah, I'm there. I'm here. Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah, where do I start? Well, really, I wanted to start by saying that I do think there's a great need for this kind of venture, and it's made me think about my time working at the Nook. I'm sorry to keep bringing up my previous occupation, but you know, when somebody mentioned about noise, there was a lot of noise, you know, at the Nook, and we educated our boys on the site. This, by the way, was created from somebody's home, and the other place I worked at, that also was created from somebody's home. They just happened to have big houses. But in particular at the Nook, all the activities, apart from the education on site, were outdoor education, outdoor activities, you know, going anywhere. They did kayaking, they did rock climbing, they did walking, in the winter they went skiing, all that kind of thing. It was all geared round out in the countryside. If I disappear, it's because my Asda order has arrived. And I do think for this kind of venture, there's a lot of need for that. We were talking about the noisy children. We had 9 boys, and we had a big garden, and at break time at school, they went out there, and I can imagine by the time I left, they were all teenagers, and the noise carried right down Lenshires, all over the place. Everybody could hear them. But we had such a good relationship with the neighbours. They understood everything. They understood everything we did, why the kids were there. You know, they had severe behavioural problems and that. But that was one of the good things, that we had this really good relationship with the neighbours, who all supported us, and we every year we had an open day, and they all came and mingled with the social workers and the parents and the kids, and that they came at Christmas. You know, I'm not saying this is the same thing as the applicant's business, but I do think if you like to, I agree with everything that Tony said, and if you can sit down and all talk about this sensibly, and I'm not saying you're not sensible, but you know, and all get together, that might help. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Okay, Dot. Councillor Clegg.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I just want to make a quick comment, and it relates to the right of way and the footpaths. I've just had a look on the Mario map and put the definitive footpaths up. There is a public right of way all the way up the track from Skipton Old Road all the way up to Always Farm. In one place just above Jerusalem Farm, for a short distance, it deviates from the track and then goes back onto the track, and it goes all the way up to Always Farm, and it's footpath 13-4, footpath 20. It goes all the way up to Always Farm from Skipton Old Road, and when it gets to the top, it meets with footpath 18, footpath 17 and footpath 16. They all merge together. So to say there is no right of way up there is categorically wrong. And I just wanted to clarify that point.
Okay, thank you for that. Could I ask you all that's spoken to put your hands down now? You've spoken, thank you. Anybody else wish to speak? No? So, Paul, I have a proposal from you. Would anyone like to second Paul's proposal? Can you hear me, David? Yeah,
I'll second.
you're seconding it. Thank you very much. So I have a proposal on the table that we send a recommendation to PNR. I believe it was to refuse this application on highways grounds. Is that correct, Paul?
Sorry. Yes, Chair.
Okay.
Amendment, Chair.
Okay, so obviously I've heard an indication, I think, certainly from Councillor Greaves, that he's not in favour. So I will ask those that are not in favour to indicate.
Amendment.
All right, okay, yeah, please do.
Sorry.
That's okay.
I move an amendment that we refer to policy and resources together with all the information provided.
Okay, you don't want to make a recommendation?
No.
Okay, so do you have a seconder for your amendment?
I'll second that, Chair.
Okay, so then we need to vote on the amendment. We have a proposal to just send this to Policy and Resources without a recommendation. So all councillors in favour, please indicate that you're in favour.
Oh, sorry. In favour of the amendment. Sorry.
In favour of sending this to PNR without a recommendation. In other words, the amendment is against your proposal. Yeah? So all those in favour of Tony Greaves' motion. So I've got one person indicated at the moment, that's Councillor Greaves.
Chairman?
Yeah.
Could I just please ask that you do a named vote on this one, and then I can just...
Yeah, I think that's probably going to be easiest.
Yeah.
Okay. Here we go.
Would you like me to do it?
No, that's fine. So, Councillor Butterworth, are you in favour of Councillor Greaves' amendment?
Against.
Councillor Clegg, are you in favour of the amendment?
For.
Councillor Coburn-Price, are you for or against the amendment?
Against.
Councillor Fletcher?
Against.
Councillor Foxley, Margaret?
Against.
Councillor Foxley, Paul?
Against.
Councillor Greaves?
For.
Councillor Lord?
For.
Councillor Mann?
For.
Councillor McCullum? Councillor McCullum? Councillor Nixon?
Against.
Councillor Waugh? Against. So I believe that has fallen. Is that
yes,
correct, Lynn?
that's correct, yes.
Okay, so we go back to the substantive proposal, was that we send a recommendation to PNR that this application is refused on highways grounds. Is that correct, Paul, or do you want to add anything to that? Happy with that?
Well, yes, the very serious consideration and weight should be given to the highways issue, and that it should be that we recommend it is refused on highways grounds. Yeah.
There we are. We'll take that as read then. Okay. So that was seconded already. So I'll go through the list again. Councillor Butterworth, are you for this recommendation? 4. Councillor Clegg.
Abstain.
Councillor Coburn-Price.
4.
Councillor Fletcher.
4.
Councillor Foxley Margaret.
4.
Councillor Foxley Paul.
4.
Councillor Greaves.
I think, Chair, we concede. The vote will be the same as the previous one, so
Okay.
concede.
Are you happy with that, Lynn?
Yeah, if you're happy with that, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so that's the recommendation that will go from the committee. Thank you very much, councillors. So next up we have planning appeals. Does anybody any questions or wish to comment?
Chair?
Yeah, go ahead.
So was that to discuss both of those planning applications?
Yes, at the beginning, Councillor Nixon, I did say we'd take them both together.
Sorry, my fault.
The reason is with 8 speakers, we'd still be here at midnight.
Yeah.
And they are dependent on one another to a certain extent.
Right. Sorry.
Has that left you all at sea? Is there anything particularly you wanted to add?
No. I just wondered whether you'd perhaps missed it, but obviously I didn't hear what you said at the beginning.
I did explain we'd take them together and the way we'd work the speakers.
All right, no bother.
The reason was that we had some confusion with the speakers at another committee, and they did one application at a time, and then she said she wanted to speak on the second application. Then, of course, you open up the whole can of worms. We all start again then, and I didn't want that to happen for time and everything else, really. Okay? So we'll go back to planning appeals then. Anybody?
Yeah, I've indicated, Chair.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Lord. Yeah, I hear you now.
Oh, Councillor Lord.
Sorry, Councillor Greaves.
Oh, yeah. Right. Okay. Yeah, a couple, Chair. Langroyd Hall. Can I ask where the first question? Well, can I ask them separately then? It's easier, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sorry,
okay.
so, Chair, I didn't fully hear that, I'm afraid, but I haven't been out to check at Langroyd Hall, but the indications seem to be that they are developing, so hopefully the answer will be yes, we'll be okay with it.
Well, in view of the history of it, I know all the difficulties there are at the moment with everything, but it would help if somebody could have a look at it and just check that everything's going okay before our next meeting anyway. I just make the point, really. I'm very reluctant to try and put any pressure on any council officers at the moment, because I think they are doing a wonderful job in impossible circumstances. Chair,
Sorry, Chairman, the answer is yes. I will get, obviously I've been off with COVID myself and I'm doing most of the enforcement work, but I will check it certainly the next couple of weeks.
Yeah. I should say how nice it is to see Mr. Watson in good form after his tribulations. Land at Broken Banks, Carry Lane, that I think is the land at the bottom with the caravans and below the allotments and so on. There have been some inquiries recently, which a number of councillors may have received. I know Councillor Nixon has, from people at Barnfield trying to sell the new houses, and at least one applicant getting lots of rumours about how it was an undesirable place to live because of the people who live on the land at the bottom, who I'm doing my best not to name, but we all know who they are. And I've certainly sent things back saying I didn't think it was a problem at all. And perhaps you should consult Councillor Nixon to see if he thinks there's a problem. But is this a matter which has been raised by more than one person? And is it a matter which council officers have been consulted on and have a view on? Basically, the things that have been said is that the people on the land at the bottom are not doing what they're supposed to have done under all this enforcement stuff. And because they're not doing it, then they in some way cause a threat to people in the new houses.
Chairman, through you, I have spoken, obviously Councillor Nixon's involved in other ways, but I have spoken to Environmental Health Officer and others, and I do go and look at the land. The land changes from time to time. I don't think it's been there obviously for a couple of weeks, but we haven't had complaints that there is a level of antisocial behaviour. We haven't had noise complaints, haven't had complaints about, I don't know, theft and other issues there. But there are occasions when the site becomes unsightly and it changes. But we haven't had a level of complaint, Chairman, down there that's from any source that we have as a council had to investigate from my discussions with Environmental Health and my knowledge of the complaints that obviously planning gets.
If I can come again, Chair. Last time I spoke to the owner of the land, he said that he wanted to know what he should do, and he was thinking of putting it forward for housing development. And I advised him to talk to officers of the planning department, who are people he's had as his sparring partners for a long time. And do we know whether he's done that in any way?
Chairman, if we go into camera later on, I can give some details, but I can't give the details in whilst we're in public debate.
Okay. Can I ask you to remember to remind us of that, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, I will do.
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead, Councillor Nixon.
Just to shed some light on what Councillor Greaves has just said, what happened here, a family had reserved a plot on the new development that Pearl are constructing, a lovely new house. They are quite expensive. And it was there with his family in the back garden of what will be his new house. And one of the allotment holders basically said, "Oh, mate, you don't want to buy one of these houses down here. You know, they're right rough, these people down here, blah, blah, blah." So that allotment holder has been, I assume, told off by the officers at Colne Town Council because they are a Colne Town Council allotment. So those allotment holders, whoever it was, probably reprimanded by, I presume, the town clerk at the town council. And this is what has prompted the head of sales at Barnfield Homes to contact the council to find out what is going on with this land and who is it, what are the plans, are they really as bad as everyone's making out. There are other discussions which Neil has alluded to which are taking place, I think, which we can talk about later, which may bring a positive outcome to it. Okay, Chair, thanks for that.
Thanks for that.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Nobody else wishing to speak? Happy to move on then. So next up we have...
Wait a second, sorry. Yeah. Could I just mention, I keep mentioning it, but it never goes on the enforcement. It's the flashing shop, caked up. It flashes all the time, through the day and through the night, the shop front, and it can't be right in the conservation area.
Right. You picked that up, Neil. Mr. Watson, did you get that?
Sorry, I'm trying to unmute, Chairman. I wasn't quick enough. Yes, Chairman.
That's okay. Good. Thank you very much. It's a real burden just having one picture, because I could have seen you if you were in the process, and I wouldn't have moved on. Right. Okay then. So next up is capital programme. As written, I think we've all seen the email about the slightly changing format for reports on that. And the other thing is we have Troden Recreation Ground car park. Now, I think we have one speaker for this, I believe has come for that purpose. Is that correct, Lynn?
No, the speaker is for the reopening of Pendle's town centres item 10.
Oh, right. So it wasn't for this then?
No, not for this. No.
That's absolutely fine. Okay. So we then have a bid there for £4,500. Now, to give you a little bit of background, the money that we got from the government, the ERDF fund, we can't use for this purpose because it would be for the benefit of one business, I understand. It's to do with a click and collect facility. But we do have £8,810 as part of that fund, which was allocated from Pendle's money. So that money we can spend. So from the improvement grant money, we could elect to pay this £4,500. So I don't know if anyone wishes to speak on that. If not, I'll put a proposal down.
Chairman.
Yeah.
I think there might just be a little bit of confusion here. This bid here for the Troden Recreation Ground, this is something to do with the capital programme. The other item that you're talking about with the ERDF funding, that's item 10.
Oh, right. No, right. Okay. And that's not actually right. I understand now. Right. I apologise, councillors. That was complete rubbish I was speaking. So the 4,500 bid is straight out of our funds.
Yes, bid to the capital
Colne area funds. So that's just a matter for us. Anybody wishing to speak on that?
Yes.
Agrees, yeah, go ahead.
I was trying to flash you, but it didn't seem to. Right. I've no objection to this at all. We're talking about the Troden Recreation Ground.
That's correct.
I mean, I want to deliver a eulogy to the Troden Recreation Ground, which is a wonderful place. And as a family, we've really rediscovered it in recent times because it's a really good place to go and meet out in the open air in groups of 6 or whatever might be allowed at any given time with family. At least it was until the weather started getting really badly. And it is a really wonderful place. However, what I want to raise, since we're talking about Troden Rec, there is a plaque on the gate, I think, or perhaps on the wall, which explains who it was that donated Troden Rec to the people of Troden in the past, and says something about how Troden Urban District Council, as it was at that time, got it into use. The plaque is in a fairly tatty condition and needs renovation. I don't think it would cost a lot of money. And if it's done before it disintegrates completely, could no doubt be done by repainting it or re-enameling it or whatever. So I would like to ask that somebody has a look at it, works out what needs to be done to it to put it back in pristine condition as part of our local explanatory heritage, I suppose. So can I move that we do that, and people come back and tell us how much it'll cost, and we can decide whether to pay for it.
Okay, who would you suggest that is?
Chairman?
Yeah, go ahead.
Who should go and look at it? Well, anybody can go and look at it. We want a council officer just to tell us how much it'll cost to put it back in decent condition.
Right, okay.
Chairman?
Yeah, go ahead.
Hiya. Hello, Mr. Greaves. Can you see my photograph, my video?
No.
You can't. Okay. No. What I have here is an actual plaque that we use for veterans when they pass away. We get a bench and we put these plaques on it. They don't rust. They're phenomenal. If you get somebody to write on it, I will donate one of these. They don't rust at all. They stay forever. So if this would help, I'm more than willing to, provide this for you.
Yeah, I'm very grateful for that, and I think that's very helpful. I think probably the plaque itself would probably, from a heritage point of view, be better off being renovated. But somebody can go look at it and work it out. And if that's not possible, we can go back to Councillor Butterworth with his very generous offer.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so has anyone wished to speak about the £4,500 bid?
Just briefly, just to say that many of you might not be aware that it's been donut central up there. We've had a lot of antisocial behaviour. So whatever surface, it mustn't be the kind of surface where you can do wheel spins. Also, I'm going to make Lord Greaves an offer. I'm brilliant with Brasso. I can go up there with my Brasso and see if I can make a difference to the plaque this weekend. And if I can't, then I'm willing to pay for its restoration from my councillor fund because it's Toolsworth.
Okay.
I don't think it's a question of Brasso. I think it's a question of it's the writing. It's fading and breaking up. You can read what it says, but it's the writing on it which needs sorting out.
Well, I think the thing is, Councillor,
but I think if there's a councillor fund there available, that's even better.
And a councillor who's prepared to go and look at it, so that's that taken care of. Okay, so did you want to say anything about the 4,500 other than a non-donutty surface?
No, I didn't. Thank you.
Okay. Would someone like to give me a proposal? Do you propose we pay it?
Propose we pay it, yes.
I'll second it.
Okay. So I'm hoping can come out of our funds as capital. Neil, that's okay as capital, isn't it?
Sorry, yes, Chairman.
Okay. So I have a proposer and a seconder. All those in favour of allotting £4,500 for the car park at Troden, please indicate. Okay, do I have anybody that is against? I'll wait the 15 seconds, see the hands go down. Anybody against, please speak now. Okay, Lynn, I'm happy to say that was everybody in favour of paying the 4,500 out of our capital funds.
Okay, thank you.
All right with that? So next up, item 9, tackling contamination in recycling bins. This is a report that we had last month. We had some comments and it's come back for further discussion. Does anyone have anything they wish to say? Any councillor wish to speak on this? I'm happy to move up. Councillor Nixon.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I received the update from Lynn. I think Carol Taylor and David Walker have put together a bit of an update, and it was circulated by email last Friday on the 30th of October. So it just sounds like things are heading in the right direction. But I think we can, judging by what has been written, expect to hear more in the new year, perhaps, particularly on the education side of things, in terms of making sure people understand what things can go into their recycling bins, because that is the key problem I think we've ascertained. It's just a general comment, Chair, really. Nothing else to say until next year. I think we'll get some more information back.
Okay. Councillor Clegg.
Thank you, Chairman. Just to update you all a little bit, there is a Zoom meeting of the Lancashire Waste Partnerships next Thursday morning, a week today, in the morning on the Thursday, and this particular item, and also an item about educating people better, educating people as to what to put in which bin and the way forward with it from the Lancashire Waste Partnership, which would cover the whole of the district councils in Lancashire, is actually on the agenda for that meeting at the Waste Partnership next Thursday.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Clegg. If nobody else has anything else to say, I'll move on.
Chair, can I just
please, Councillor Greaves.
This report on the 30th, I don't think I've had. Well, I don't get lots of things from the council nowadays, so I don't know what it's all about. I never got a notice for this meeting originally, but don't know what happens to them all. No, definitely didn't get it. Anyway, so if somebody can send it to me, I'd be very grateful, please.
Okay. You do that, Lynn?
I will do, yes.
Thanks very much.
Thanks.
Okay, so I'm going to move on now. Reopening of Pendle's Town Centre. I've got Jane Turner to speak. Good evening.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you.
The floor is yours. I understand you wanted to speak.
I did, yes, indeed. With the Colne bid, we've started a project this week to help get the high street back operational, albeit online. When the announcement came out on Saturday, we at Tubbs have been working on an idea for about 3 weeks since we thought we were going to get locked down anyway, whereby we're going to take our business online. We are going to go back to what we did originally when we were at Turner's. We're going to go back to selling wine, we're going to do deli, we're going to do cheese, we're going to do coffee, we're going to do the great gift boxes, all that kind of thing. Nice little treat for people. So we've been working on that in the background. When the announcement came on Saturday, it kind of took my thinking a little bit further in terms of people shouldn't have to stop shopping on the high street of Colne. They should still be able to do that. So my idea is that we, as a bid, and hopefully as a council as well with money from you, is that we get as many businesses within Colne with an e-commerce site up and running as soon as is humanly possible. That would enable people from Colne to still shop locally, to still be able to go and into a virtual marketplace, so to speak, or a virtual high street, and to be able to go and shop at all the businesses they love in Colne. We started doing that already. We went around yesterday. We got funding from the bid on Tuesday. We started going up the high street yesterday, trying to find places who wanted our help. I think me and Nick alone got 24 different businesses who needs varying levels of help. Our plan is to create within the company created via the bid a marketplace, which is Colne. We're going to put some money into the social media marketing for that, so it gets seen by an awful lot of people, and drive traffic to that, so that the local community shop still within Colne, still the same businesses, albeit in different environments. It's about keeping everybody safe because you're shopping online, but you're still shopping within your local neighbourhood. In addition to that, we've set up delivery networks as well. So we have a click and collect hub that was set up in Nicola's Create Studios. So we can do that. Again, safety paramount. And we've also set up a delivery network so that we essentially are hiring a man in a van to come and cover Pendle. So we're offering the small businesses as well as the ones that are actually members of the bid, free delivery in Pendle right up through Christmas. outside of Pendle, there is small delivery charges, but as we're tapping into an existing network, it means that the charges will be less than each individual business could actually get themselves. So I think we've decided as a bid that we need to throw as much money as this as we possibly can, because I think this is the way to help businesses. It's a way to future-proof. I mean, we didn't think 2 weeks ago that we're going to be back in lockdown again, and now we are. I think we've got to think that anything could potentially happen in the future, and we've got to give each individual business the maximum opportunity to generate business for themselves. Many of them are highly technologically inept, which is fine, but what we've done is to develop solutions that will make it so easy for them to get an online business and to flourish still within these really, really challenging times. So what I'm asking for, I think, is the council's help in terms of any funding you have available right now, in terms of getting the high street back online, back on track, should be funded towards this project. Thank you.
Okay, do you have any idea of the amount of money you're asking us for?
Right, we've come up with the costing. It's 150 quid per website for people who don't have a website. But there's varying levels of, you've got people who have an e-commerce website, who already do all the social media, who already do deliveries. Those people will benefit from being on the central hub, which we can do that. That's a really easy job to do, but then they benefit from the delivery service because that's cheaper. They benefit from the click and collect service as well. And there's companies who have absolutely nothing at all, who don't want to do it themselves, who we could set up a process whereby we take their product, we put it in a warehouse, we set up the website, we take the orders, we pick it, pack it, we send it out, and we do that whole process for them. You kind of between two areas at the moment, really. I mean, at the bid meeting on Tuesday, we discussed funding the delivery for a month. I personally think we need to fund it right through to the end of the new year, because we have no idea where we're going to be at that point. So that's an area I think that could be additionally funded, definitely. I mean, we've had quite
I'm just asking you to give us a feel, only a feel, for how much you're looking for now. I'm sure in a month's time it will have changed and you can come back and talk to us then. We're trying to be as easy with you as possible to make it work, but to give us an idea. So if you're talking about £150 per business.
No, 150. That will be the website set up. You've got a 30 quid set up to actually take the thing. Let me think. If it was £6,000, would that be too much?
Would it be better for us to allocate some money for this purpose that you could bid into?
Huh?
That you could bid into, or are you looking for us to give you some money tonight? This is what I'm saying.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. No, that is what I'm saying. Cash now.
Cash now.
We need to do this now. I had a conversation earlier today with, is it Linda, who looks after Barrow Forward?
Yeah.
And she was, because Barrow Forward businesses, since we launched this, Barrow Forward businesses have been contacting me to ask how they get on the thing that we're doing with Colne Bid and everything else. And I said, I can't, because you're not part of Colne Bid. It's a different thing. We can't allocate money to Barrow Forward businesses and have them involved in this. So I contacted Linda down in Barrow Forward. They've got a fund of £6,000. They're looking for a solution. They're asking for us to go down and do that for them as well after we've finished doing this, which I suspect we'll be finished doing this by, well, the bulk of it will be ready by the middle of next week. And that will be the centralised hub, the virtual high street, all the websites finished, all the delivery networks set up, and businesses operating online by the middle of next week throughout Colne.
Okay, so you've said for Barrow Forward it's going to be about £6,000, if I understand what you just said.
They're
Would £6,000 cover it for Colne?
They're smaller than us, and that's not bid funded either.
So you're looking, let's say then for 8,000.
I'd say 10.
You're looking for 10, right? That's what I'm trying to get at. So we know what we're actually talking about. Okay.
And when Linda said to me, I've got a meeting at the end of the month,
Yeah. Jane, can you turn your video off, as we have lost you completely? If you turn the video off, we might be able to hear you.
Why?
That's better. Are you there?
Yeah.
Okay, I can hear you reasonably clearly now. So if you leave your video off, you might do better. You're very broken up. So my understanding is you're looking for about £10,000.
I am indeed, yes.
To put all of Colne online if they want it.
Yes.
Right, okay.
They all want to.
Neil, would you like to comment on what's been said so far?
Yes, Chairman. Just to clarify a couple of issues, there are two sources of funding that I'm aware of outside your normal capital programme. We've got the EIDF funding. If it was 81,000 odd for Pendle, 60,000 for area committees, that cannot, I've got to be clear, cannot be used for this because the European funding doesn't allow that to happen, Chairman. But there is some funding from Pendle Direct, and for Colne that's 8,810, and for Barrowford it's 3,700, and that is Pendle funded. And I'm assuming I'd have to check with finance because obviously I didn't know the detail of this till tonight, but I'm assuming that can be allocated through the two area committees towards this scheme. But for your purposes, Chairman, it's 8,810 that's in the budget.
Right. Okay. Thank you. So what I would say to the councillors, if you're of a mind to give the full 10,000 to bid into, which obviously they'll have to provide receipts and all the rest of it. It's not just money you can throw around. So we've got £8,810, as Neil said, which came from Pendle. So we can spend that money on this project, and we could add then from our own funds, of which we've taken out 4,500 tonight. That still leaves us over 15,000 in there. We could make that up to 10. So that would be another 1,190 to make this up to around 10,000. Anybody like to speak? Councillor Lord.
Right. I'd like to ask a couple of questions to Jane. One is, are the indoor market involved in this?
Yes.
Have they been asked?
Yesterday. There's 3 stores allowed. I spoke to Stephen, the market manager. There's 3 stores allowed to stay open. You've got Shaw's, you've got the butchers.
I know.
I'm
the chair of the market panel, so I know this. This is why I'm asking.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
Yes. There's Carol's Deli. There's Market Butchers, and then there's Shaw's.
And Shaw's.
I've managed to persuade Shaw's and Carol. And then they thought they were going to pull the cake stall round as well and kind of block it off at the end, but apparently cake isn't essential, so they can't have cake. But we've got the 3 on there. So what we're going to try and create within the Come to Colne website is kind of like a food hub of places where you can go and buy fresh produce, which is outside of the supermarkets and inside of the town.
I think it's an incredible idea, and you've obviously put a lot of thought in it. It does seem to be going fairly quick. The other question I wanted to ask, which you might have said this and I've probably missed it. Where is the bid funding?
The bid funding is going to fund the rest of it.
Which is what?
It's all part and parcel. I mean, if we don't use all the money, it can come back to you. But I think the council and the bid should split this, because we obviously, as the bid, represent an awful lot of businesses, and this is very much concentrated around the high street. Now, it came from the fact that we had a certain funding allocated leading up to the Christmas period, which was for mainly offline marketing with quite a lot of social online at the same time. We've had to pull a section of that, of the offline, because there's no point in producing it because we don't know whether we're going to be open. However, we still have to keep an element of that in reserve, because when it's coming up to Christmas, if we're going to open again on the 2nd of December, we've got to have plans in place at the same time to do an element of offline marketing to drive even more traffic to the high streets, as well as doing this online activity.
Is there enough funding in the bid to, you know, if we couldn't do this, or if we didn't agree, is there enough funding in the bid to take it forward?
Well, there will be, but I don't assume that will be fair on all the other businesses that aren't retail that are part of the bid. I kind of think that the council at this point in time should be focusing all their efforts on keeping the town open.
Along with a lot of other efforts that
Absolutely.
are going on, yeah. I get what you're saying, Jane, I really do, yeah.
What we need to focus on now is what is the immediate need.
Yeah.
The immediate need is to help the businesses out there that are really, really struggling. You know, I went across to see Mags at MHD Hair this morning.
Yeah.
She's going to build a website. We're going to build her website for us. She's just spent £4,000 on stock.
Yeah.
And it's sat there.
Yeah.
And she can't do anything with it. And she can't do anything with it apart from maybe text the clients about it for another month. It's not going to sell unless we do something about it. And this is the solution to get the rest of the town all together as a community, working together to make this happen.
Absolutely, absolutely. I only wanted to know, you know, I'm always hearing about the bid, but to be honest, I don't really know that much about it. And I just wondered why the whole of the funding wasn't there.
With the smallest bid in the entire country.
Right.
And we're the only bid at this point in time, Dorothy, that has had this idea. There's no bids in this country that have had this idea. Just us, the smallest one. Now, I think everybody in this town needs to find us and make this happen.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree with you. And if there's anything I can do personally, I will to help.
We're going to need people.
Give you any money.
No, we're going to need people to help on the collection hub, definitely.
Yeah.
So we're opening that between 10 and 1 and 3 and 7 every day. So we're going to need lots and lots of volunteers to help us man that. Obviously, we're doing it a COVID-safe way, in the same way that we did with the school meal for the kids the other week, because that acted as that. So
I've offered my help, and I've just realised I can't even go out. Never mind help. in spirit.
Okay, thank you. I just want to move. I want to move this along a bit. What I'm going to keep doing, councillors, is I'm going to call Neil Watson back in. If there's anything that was said there, Neil, that you need to comment on.
Chairman, no, I actually, from an economic development point of view, I think it's a great idea to try and keep businesses going. And we will move heaven and earth to try and get this moving as quickly as we can. But it is public money, and it has to be accounted for. So there has to be an accountable body, etc. So there's some mechanics of this that we can do quickly, I suspect. But it isn't just money that can be tossed away. It has to be administered properly, Chairman. So there has to be a process in place.
If we allocate a fund, we can rest assured that you'll make sure the mechanism behind that is safe. Yeah,
absolutely.
Please, Jane, I was talking to Neil then.
Sorry,
we're getting cross purposes. You happy with that, Neil?
Yes, Chairman. Provided we have that plan and we know who we're paying, and it's going to the service providers, etc., in the proper way, I'm sure that we can work our way through it very quickly.
Okay, I've got a lot of councillors want to speak. So next, Margaret and Paul Foxley. Not sure which one.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, absolutely fantastic, Jane. I was out and about visiting shops and some businesses yesterday with posters and things about information about the neighbourhood plan. And they were talking about the fact that you visited them earlier, and it was just like you were a ray of sunshine. You were their lifeline, and it was fantastic to be part of that, you know, and just all credit to you, because this is just what Colne Town Centre needs. And thank you.
Oh, thank you.
I just had one very quick question for Neil, if I may. Can I just ask, I reiterate what Margaret said, a brilliant idea, I think. But can I just ask, are there presently any other calls on the Pendle direct funding?
No. No.
Sorry.
No.
Yeah, so someone's answering on my behalf. I don't know who that was, but
sorry.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Not that I'm aware of. As I said, I only heard about this this evening. It will have to go through area committees. I've looked at the minutes. I can't find any other call on that. So as far as I'm aware, the 8810 is available.
Thank you.
That's absolutely fine. Next, I've got Councillor Greaves.
Thank you, Chair. Just a question to start off with. What is Pendle Direct? I've obviously missed it.
Right, okay, so the money we've got available, if I explain, the money we've got available, this is made up of two elements. One is government money, which is the ERDF portion, which we've got £15,400 of, and the other is £8,810, which came from P&R to us for this purpose. Now, the government rules do not allow us to use this money for what we're being asked. So we are going to use the Pendle money for it, which we can do.
So the P&R gave money to area committees.
Yes.
Out of the goodness of their heart, and it's called Pendle Direct. And what's it for?
No, it's the Pendle allocation for the reinvigoration of the High Street.
All right. Okay. I'd obviously missed it. Can I say, I think the idea is brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. High streets that do not do something like this will just lose out on. I mean, these lockdowns are going to come and go for a long time at various levels and various degrees. And unless street shops, as we've got in Colne, can find a way of getting their stuff direct to consumers, they will go out of business. And we'll just be left with the supermarkets and so on. So this is absolutely right. Can I ask, however, which I think is what Councillor Lord was getting at, it's not clear to me, is this £10,000 the total cost of this operation for the next month? Or if not, how much is the total operation?
It's not the total cost, no. And to be fair, we don't know what the total operation cost is going to be yet because we don't understand what the actual take-up is going to be. So what I want to do is have money in reserve. And if we don't spend it all, we'll give it you back. It's fine.
It'll be the first time that's ever happened, Chair. Right, thank you very much. But it's got to be done. Got to be done.
Yeah, it does.
Okay. Next, I've got Councillor Coburn-Price.
Two very quick observations. I'm on the little marketing subgroup of nerdy marketing people for this Colne bid. So I've been watching the graphic designer creating an identity over the last 2 days. And what we've got now is really beautiful and classy. And we've got these gorgeous bags. And I think we can really do something with these bags. They could be a badge of honour. I've seen on social media, people are saying, don't do Amazon this year, support Colne, shop local. We've got these Colne bags. And I would love it if people, just wanted to be seen with the bags, putting stuff in the bags, because they, it's an act of sort of social goodness for the town if they deal with this business. And I think when this goes on Colne Talk, I think this will really catch people's imagination before Christmas. We were going to do something like have Christmas on Colne bid, and it was going to be a competition and a turkey and sprouts and things. But I think this instead, at this awful time, will just be perfect for the mood.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, we're aiming for national press by the end of the week with this because no other town in the country is doing it.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Put us on the map, Jane. That's great.
My sister-in-law's the journalist for the Mirror.
Yeah, please, Jane. Let me finish.
Sorry.
Okay.
I'm excited.
So just, Councillor, just so you know, from the capital, we had 20,540 at the start of the evening. You've already spent 4.5 at Troden. If we spend 10 on this, that will still leave us with £6,000 in the kitty. So I would propose from the chair that we allocate this £10,000. It will be administered through the normal procedure with Mr. Watson. Would somebody like to second that? Councillor Coburn-Price?
Yes, I'll second it.
Okay, so if everyone in favour does not indicate, so if you keep your hands down if you agree. If not, I will listen to anyone who wishes to speak against. I think that's unanimous. Okay, Jane, I wish you all the very best with this project.
Thank you.
I'm sure you'll come back to us in the future because, as Councillor Gree said, this is not going to go away soon. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you very much for having me. That's brilliant. Thank you all of you. It's really, really great. Thank you.
Chairman.
Yeah, sorry, Neil.
My apologies. I'm going to have to leave you at medication time.
Okay.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Keep well. Colne District Working Safety Partnership. Anybody, any comments on the minutes?
There it is.
No? Okay. Got some outstanding items there that are ongoing. Anybody got any further information or wish to speak? No? Okay. Lynn, we need to exclude the public now because the nature of the next three items. Can you confirm when that we've lost our video feed, please?
Yeah, if you could just, you just need to vote on the exclusion of public and press.
All right. All those in favour, please indicate by putting your hand up if you disagree with exclusion of the public. Nobody has indicated. If anybody, Councillor Lord, you've put your hand up.
Well, you told me to.
No, I said if you disagree.
Right.
All right.
Right, okay.
Thanks very much. So nobody disagrees with us excluding the public. So if you could do that, Lynn, that would be fine. Thank you.